Okay, we're going to be talking, this is part 7 of The German Genius by Peter Watson. We're going to be talking especially about this guy here today, Anton Mengs, Anton Raphael Mengs. His father was an artist named Ishmael Mengs, and he named his son after Antonio Correggio and Raphael, okay? And then they moved to Rome so that the son could study all the paintings, the great paintings in Rome. And his father would go off to work. He would leave his son in the, one of the museums where he could paint. And then the father would come back at the end of the day and look at his paintings. He'd give him some bread to eat in the day. And if the paintings and the drawings were good, he'd feed him dinner. If he didn't think the drawings were good, the kid hadn't worked hard, no dinner. So he's kind of harsh. And remember, what he really is a neoclassical painter in the mid-1700s, mid to late 1700s. And neoclassicism is like all reason, the so-called Enlightenment. It's atheism, okay? It's kind of cold. And so that's why I think, you see, the greatest painters are Christians. When you go to atheism, you lose a lot. Atheism says that life is meaningless. If life is meaningless, how do you put meaning into your art? You don't. That's why they stink. Okay, now don't get me wrong. A neoclassical painter can have tremendous talent, but you have to have more than talent and realism to make an all-time great masterpiece. You need emotion, you need feeling, you need meaning, okay? Why is something important to us? Because it has meaning. Okay, so anyways, here's a self-portrait of Anton Raphael Mengs. Okay, now here is his best painting. This is called Adoration of the Shepherds, and it really is a magnificent masterpiece. Okay, you can see echoes of Antonio Correggio and Raphael in his painting, and even Sandro Botticelli, the Italian masters. You get that feeling, especially of Sandro Botticelli and some of the other great ones. But still, it's a masterpiece. The light emanating from Christ, the joy, the awe, okay, the angels up above. It's beautiful. And he's got some other real good paintings here. But I'm also going to explain to you. He was like the most famous neoclassical painter in the world. Here's a good example. Here he's painting Leopold II, the Holy Roman Emperor. And you can see the magnificent detail. Look how perfect all the clothing is. Look how, dignified and magisterial the face is. Okay, you can tell he has stunning artistic technique, magnificent artistic technique. There's no doubt about it. It's magnificent, okay? You would think, you can't tell any difference between this painting or if it was painted by Jacques-Louis David. They're both absolute masters of neoclassical technique. And Mengs, Anton Raphael Mengs, came before Jacques-Louis David, okay? So Jacques-Louis David had the benefit of being able to look at his work. Now here's just a nice painting of Savior of the World, Salvator Mundi, Christ, okay? It's his version. You can see you got a little bit of a cross coming out of his head. It was a unique sort of halo. That's a bit creative right there. Here is one of St. Peter in his chair, the first bishop of Rome, the first pope. Okay, now here's what I wanted to get at. Here's what I think was the issue with Mengs. Here is Parnassus, Mount Parnassus, the ancient Greek gods and philosophers. There's Apollo, sort of the head of Mount Parnassus, and the god of reason, even though we know from the statues he was also abducting women like Daphne and having his way with them. It's still a beautiful painting. This is in the Stanza Signatura, the signature room of the Vatican, where you've also got the School of Athens, the painting behind me by Raphael. This is by Raphael. And the Communion Disputa, it's called, about religion in that same room, the one that the famous critic John Ruskin made a speech about. But I simply wanted you to see Parnassus by Raphael. Okay, and by the way, Mengs was considered the new Raphael, the German Raphael. He was the most famous painter in the world in his day, and the Germans loved him. Now, here's another version of Mount Parnassus by Nicolas Poussin, and this one is in 1630, so it's after the original Italian Raphael, and you can see it's magnificent, and it's a bit different. Apollo is seated, he's not playing the harp, there's more clothing on the gods. You got these little Christian-looking angels that have now been incorporated into an ancient Greek myth, holding the wreath of laurel. So this is like Christianization of a Greek myth, okay? And it's beautiful. It works. Syncretism is the tendency of the Catholic Church to take the best of something old and combine it with something new. Now here is Parnassus by Anton Raphael Mengs, and this was considered like the greatest painting of its time. But to me, it really doesn't do much different than what Raphael's painting of Parnassus had, okay? Greek god, it's not a big deal to have the Johnson uncovered. It tends to be in Christianity something that always gets covered, almost always. Especially of Jesus Christu, for example. You know, the big dog, God the Father, you know, you never see a painting with his Johnson showing. So anyways, it's a good painting, but you notice how it's a little flat, it's a little cold, there's not much emotion, excitement, or joy in it. Okay, yeah, it's good, it's beautiful, but it's still not a masterpiece. It's a great painting, but it's not a masterpiece, okay? Now, here's one of his students. This is Johann Heinrich Tischbein, and he's painting Diogenes, the ancient Greek philosopher, the homeless philosopher, with his lantern, searching the streets of Athens for one honest man, okay? And, you know, Tischbein's got a whole bunch of other paintings of the ancient Greeks. Here's another famous painting of Tischbein, and this one is of Goethe. And this is Goethe in the Roman Campagna when he went back to Italy when he was about 40 years of age to study everything related to Italy. And he especially was a fan of the ancient Greeks, but also their paintings, the Italian paintings of the ancient Greeks. But what I'm trying to show you is all of this stuff is connected. You know, the transition. Goethe is a transition figure from Neoclassicism of Germany into the Romantic movement. All right. And again, I think the ancient Greeks, Neoclassicism was a great thing as far as studying the ancient Greeks, but they declined Christianity too much. And if you start dropping out of Christianity, then you end up in what happened to Prussia, to Germany. So Prussia was one of the states within the greater Germany, relatively militaristic. You know, Otto Bismarck was related to Prussia. The king of Prussia sort of became the king of Germany. And this guy, Karl von Clausewitz, fought against Napoleon in the Battle of Jena in 1806, and they were all pissed off and surprised that Napoleon had defeated them. So he put a lot of effort into studying methods of war so that Germany would be able to stand up to a national army like that of France and be victorious the next time around. So this is Karl von Clausewitz, and he's considered a military genius, and his theories of war were very popular amongst the people who study that, okay? Including Colonel John Boyd of the United States. Now, I just want to show you a couple paintings here. These are by Anton von Werner. He's from, or Werner, a lot of times the W is pronounced like a V. He was later in the 1800s and part of sort of this Prussian militaristic movement. You know, he's a painter, wants to get his commission, and they would pay him to paint all these battle scenes. So the big war was 1870, the Franco-Prussian War, which the Germans won, the Prussians won, okay? And this is storming the Spicterian Heights. So, you know, stupid guy makes his guys charge up a hill, and they have terrible casualties. But the Germans overall won this battle, and they had this tremendous militaristic pride. But in the end, you know, a country needs a strong national defense so that the neighboring countries don't take it over and conquer it. But when they start going, chasing all the neighboring countries, trying to steal stuff from them, in the end, it often doesn't go so well for them. Okay, this Anton von Werner is a magnificent artist. But one of the things that makes a magnificent painting is when you have a memorable message that resonates with people and they want to keep on seeing it. So here is a painting, you know, German troops occupying a wealthy French home during the Franco-Prussian War. And you can see tremendous artistic skill on the part of Anton von Werner, but it's sort of like, who cares? Okay, a bunch of German soldiers are living in somebody's house and kind of messing the place up. Who cares? That doesn't have lasting value. Unless you're a military historian, who cares about this painting long term? Despite the fact there's magnificent artistic technique, okay? Now here's another painting by Anton von Werner, and it's kind of what I was getting at. And he's got several other ones similar to this one. This is Proclamation of the German Empire. They declared themselves an empire after they defeated the French in 1870. They're doing this all in the Palace of Versailles. The King of Prussia, King of Germany, King Wilhelm is declaring himself as the first emperor, you know, as if it's some sort of like return to the Holy Roman Empire of Charlemagne in 1800 AD or something like that. So they're getting a little bit full of themselves. And again, Anton von Werner, he's collecting a commission, he's paid, he has to paint all this, but you can see where Germany's going as they lose sight of Christianity and get more obsessed with power. Always wants to centralize and bring more power to itself, whereas freedom is often more distributed all over the place and individualistic. This is more conformist, and this is the direction Germany started going into, which is sort of the beginning of this downward spiral. Okay. Yes, they liked Otto von Bismarck consolidating the German states, city-states, so they would be more able to protect themselves from outsiders like France, but they go too far when they start conquering other countries that they don't need to go after, and then it eventually has bounced back on them as their defeated enemy then recruits allies like the USA, and the next time around they lose. Okay. So anyways, we're going to leave it at there for today. I hope you found that helpful.